Welcome to Origins, where we go more in depth into the actual origins of your favorite superheroes and villains. Today we're going to discuss how Sinestro went from being one of the greatest Green Lanterns to one of the greatest enemies of the Green Lanterns. Now keep in mind, Sinestro is another character who has a vast history in the Green Lantern mythos, and he has been retconned into more of the history with Blackest Night. The origin we're going to reveal today is also the most current version, as revealed in the Villains Month. It contains minor changes to his previously established origin, but nothing too drastic. Sinestro was an archaeologist on his home planet of Kurigar. He cared more about the history of the planet than the people who actually lived on it. This wasn't a bad thing, as he was just very focused on his work. But one day, there was a ship that crash-landed onto his planet. And out of curiosity, Sinestro decided to investigate. What lay inside was a dying Green Lantern who had been attacked by the Weaponers of Quard. The Weaponers of Quard were a mighty race from the antimatter universe. Well, Sinestro would have died that day as the Weaponer was after the power of the Green Power Ring and was willing to kill anybody in his way. But the ring was sensing that its owner was perishing, and with its owner unable to protect it, it decided to go to the nearest person who contained great will. And it was that day that one of the greatest Green Lanterns received his ring, as Sinestro joined the Green Lantern Corps. Sinestro used the ring to defeat the Weaponer and win that day, but this would be the first of many days where we see Sinestro's darker side. The original Green Lantern ring owner wasn't actually dead yet, and he requested his ring back, as it would provide him with life support until help could arrive. But Sinestro, he saw this as an opportunity. He felt that he was better equipped for such a weapon, and he left the area, allowing the Green Lantern to die. While the rest of the Corps was unaware that this had even happened, and Sinestro was eventually greeted by his future mentor and his future trainer, Abin Sur. The two men would train together and eventually become equals, and eventually, friends. As time went on, they went on many adventures together. And as friends do, Abin Sur eventually brought Sinestro back to his homeworld to visit and show him all of the joys that he got to grow up with in his childhood. Well, Sinestro fell in love with Abin Sur's sister on these visits, and with Abin Sur's blessing, Sinestro eventually wed Aurin Sur. Everything was going well for Sinestro, as he now not only had friends, but he had a family of his own. So Sinestro took his new wife back to his own homeworld, and Abin Sur would head off to begin his research on the Blackest Night, research that would eventually lead to his own downfall. Back in his homeworld, Sinestro realized that most Green Lantern's errors were that they spread themselves far too thin in their own sector. They would just go too far out there and try to save everyone. So he had a plan. He would move all of the inhabitants of his homeworld into one mighty city, a capital city, a city that he could police easily and ensure that there was no crime in. This caused the inhabitants of his homeworld to deem him a savior, the stopper of all crime and death, and they made him their ruler. But during this period, he not only ruled his planet, but he also became known as one of the greatest Green Lanterns, never failing and never backing down from battle. But this is when things went sour. He began to rule his homeworld with a militaristic nature until the inhabitants eventually grew to resent him for it, and they began to stage rebellions and uprisings against him. Things had gotten so bad that Aurin Sur sent away their only daughter that she had while Sinestro was off-world, and she did this before Sinestro could even get to see his own daughter, for fear of her life and for what Sinestro would do to her in his training. This just caused things to grow worse for Sinestro on his homeworld, and Aurin Sur began to grow apart from him. Well, during these events, Abin Sur had perished at the hands of Atrocitus, and his ring had chosen a replacement. The replacement was Hal Jordan, and as Sinestro had problems at home, he began to use Hal Jordan as a confidant. As their friendship grew, Sinestro eventually decided to introduce Hal to his homeworld and show him what you could do with this power, how you could stop all crime and death. Well, when Hal got there, he was disgusted with what Sinestro had done with this power. He told Sinestro that this planet feared him, and that they were supposed to conquer fear, not cause it. The two men eventually battled over this, and in the end, it was the beginning of Sinestro's downfall as a Green Lantern. Hal went to go get help from the other Green Lanterns, but while he was gone, the people of Sinestro's homeworld saw this as their chance, and they started a full-on riot that would push Sinestro back. During this uprising, they would have a child suicide bomber run forward and actually kill Sinestro's wife, Aurin Sur. As punishment for abusing the Green Lantern power, the Guardians of the Universe banished Sinestro to the Antimatter Universe. But that's when Sinestro remembered the first enemy that he ever met as a Green Lantern, the Weaponers of Quard, and how they lived in this Antimatter Universe. So he sought them out. he told them of a great power of fear, a power that they could use against the Green Lanterns because it was the one weakness of the Green Lantern rings. Using their technology, they were able to forge him a yellow power battery and a ring that was very similar to the Green Lantern ring, but one that would be fueled by the very thing that he felt could bring justice to the universe: the yellow light of fear. From there, Sinestro built up his core, but his intentions were to rule with fear in a militaristic nature, not actually become a villain. Due to this, he eventually kills off his own entire core when they turn into outright villains in his absence. And now, he works as more of an anti-hero than anything. The powers of the yellow ring are basically the same thing as a green ring, but it's more based on fear and the ability to find out what scares a person and use it against them. And that's all we have for Sinestro. If you learned something new today, please give the video a like, as we really do appreciate it. And you can always follow us on Twitter @Comicstorian, where we can talk about any of the videos or any comic book lore that you want to discuss. I'm Benny for Comicstorian, and I'll talk to you guys next time.